moves for the Canucks. So this keeps going bad. I want to kind of fire a few ideas at you and kind of hear your thoughts kind of based on conversations I have had with fans, subscribers, whoever. So one conversation, and I've kind of already heard you talk about it on stream, Evander Kane. Are you hands off Evander Kane? There was a rumor, I think it was Dollywall that threw it out there. If it was like a bat, like I'll throw out like the massive hot take. Say you were able to get Evander Kane 50% with the questions of problems. I think he's from the Vancouver or BC area. Do you even take a risk and touch that situation if it also meant maybe sending a bad contract the other way? Say San Jose goes, we'll take Tyler Myers off your hands. You take Evander Kane 50%, get rid of our problem and move on. Would you even consider something even in that kind of idea?
My gut feeling, John, is no. And when you look at the Vancouver Canucks organization, they're quite conservative, right? They don't take a lot of risks. And then they haven't had the best in terms of PR, the Jake Virtanen situation, of course. And I know it's different situations, but they're kind of the same kind of power. I think Kane's a lot more skilled, but power forward, maybe not the best in the room, whatever. So there's the Jake Virtanen. You had stories of Holtby and Schmidt not being happy when they were here. I just don't know if you want to bring in another potential malcontent. And I know that Kane has had his problems, not just in San Jose. I know in Winnipeg, there's been stories and other places he's been. So for me, the Canucks, their issue technically on paper shouldn't be scoring. And you're bringing him in to help score. Maybe that's the whole point because the Canucks aren't scoring. I personally would stay away from him. What about you? What have you been saying?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll say this. There's been so many issues around Evander Kane. I think it's just a problem you really don't want to have and a player you really don't want to have in your room. I would say this, maybe I'll play devil's advocate here and just say that, can it get really any much worse with the Canucks? I mean, again, it's definitely not something you want to have. And I think a lot of people will be like, okay, why are we having this player on our team? And maybe the Canucks will lose fans from it. I don't know. But my point in saying that I guess they could maybe consider is just because there's situations where you could have a conversation with the guy. And of course the guy could bullshit, the guy could lie and just say whatever people want to hear. But maybe I would say personally, Clay, if it was from me, this maybe is just bigger than hockey. Like you say no, because of everything that's gone down with the guy outside of hockey. I just don't think you bring that into your room.
There's a small bit of local boy comes home story, but that's not big enough.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like maybe he finally just figures it out, gets out of the US, just come. I don't know. I really don't know, but there's just been too many problems with this guy, but kind of moving on. So this is flipping it, potentially trading a guy. Say Boston, Washington, Toronto, one of these teams calls and goes, we'll give you a first and second round pick for JT Miller. Are you saying yes or are you saying no?
It depends if Engvall's involved, man.
If Engvall's involved, you're saying yes. But if a team does call and they're throwing a first, they're throwing a second, maybe they're even throwing another piece. JT Miller's got a year and a half left under contract, basically, with the Canucks. Are you considering a trade like that if it keeps kind of going negative? Because I kind of told you through the stream, and I've been saying, like, if you wait till the start of next year, the value goes down because then it's an expiring deal. Right now, a team looks at that and goes, wow, we'll get still a year and a half of this guy.
2 playoff runs. Exactly. Yeah. I think you have to look at it, John, whether it's interesting because Boeser's contract expires at the end of this season, as you know, and then Miller and Horvat at the end of next season, as you said. And those guys are all looking, depending on qualifying offers or UFA, RFA, they're all looking at between $7 and $7.5 million a year on a team where you're already paying Hughes 7.8, Ekman Larson over 8, and Pettersson 7.3. So I think you do have to look at that move. And if it's, especially if we continue to struggle, we're at the bottom of the league. If you don't think that you have a hope and heck of re-signing Miller at the end of next season, you're exactly right, John. Pull the trigger now, especially if the return is something good. Now, I guess that's the magic question, right? Is what's the return going to be? But if you tell me it's a first, second, and a prospect, or a first, second, and a roster player, I definitely look at that for sure. Given that the Canucks only had a second round pick last year, and 2 years ago they didn't have a pick till the third round, we have to recoup some draft capital for sure. So yes, I would be open to that, as much as I love seeing him swear at everyone on the ice, teammates and opponents, as much as he's the engine that drives their team right now. I think you got to look at it because that's just smart business.
I'll throw out the names in general of because I made a video and I suggested that I could see these 5 players being traded in the next 6 months and the next 12 months. And then maybe you can just touch on, would you rather, again, it's a tough question for sure, but based on age, based on future, based on long-term, based on your perspective as a fan, would you rather move Miller or would you rather move Boeser and avoid that whole situation coming up? But the 5 names, I'll throw out the 5 names I had that I could see being moved in the next, whatever, like I said, 6 months, 12 months. So Tyler Mott and Jaroslav Halak, pending UFAs. You got JT Miller, who I just said. You have Brock Boeser, contract situation coming up as an RFA. And then Tyler Myers, if you could somehow get rid of that contract. So those were the 5 names I brought up. I guess, do you see other names? I mean, maybe like the Dickinson thing hasn't worked out, so maybe they move him, maybe they move another guy. So based on those 5 names, do you have other names that you think could get moved? And then based on the Miller Boeser question I gave you.
Yeah, no, great question. So I'm glad you did not mention who I call the untouchable 6 of Demko, Pedersen, Hughes, Horvat, Höglander, and Podkolzin. Like those 6 guys aren't going anywhere, I believe. So, but then that only leaves about 12 guys to name, and you nailed half of them. I think Halak makes sense to move because he's a proven goaltender that's going to give someone some awesome insurance for the playoffs. So I'm right with you there.
And if you got a 3rd round pick for the guy, you got a 3rd round pick for the guy.
Yeah, because he's gonna, because you're gonna get they're grooming DiPietro, right, to come in behind Demko next year anyway. So great point. So I agree with you on Halak. Mott, he brings something that the Canucks simply don't have right now, and that's some speed on the penalty kill. He's already made a big difference. He can't score on a breakaway to save his life, but at least he's getting chances. So I go Halak, yes. Mott, no. Myers, if there's no such thing as no trade clause, I don't even know what his trade protection is, but his contract is just so prohibitive. But yeah, if anyone would take him, a flyer on him, I would absolutely move him. And then Boeser, interesting one, 7.5 qualifying offer under the old rules. But I just have a feeling that the Canucks are really stubborn with the guys that they draft, right? The stuff that, and a lot of guys like this, the guys that you draft and develop. That's why Demko, PD, Hughes, Horvat, and I would say Boeser, he's not an untouchable, but I think Aquilini and crew may consider him so. So to answer your question, I go Halak, yes, tradable. Myers, if a miracle happens. Miller, yes. I say Mott, I want to keep, and Boeser, I'm on the fence, but I think they will keep him, but I'm on the fence of whether they should keep him.
Okay. And I agree. I think a lot of executives, a lot of coaches that pay attention to the Canucks realize how valuable a guy like Tyler Mott would be in the playoffs and in a bottom 6 role on the penalty kill, stuff like that. Yeah. But if you feel like the Canucks are not going to be able to re-sign Tyler Mott and a team calls with a 2nd round pick or something like that, are you taking that, I guess, settling for the fact that you're going to lose him for nothing potentially?
Yeah, no, it's always better as hurtful to your pride and to the fan base it is, of course. And we've seen the Canucks. There's one offseason where they didn't move a guy like Dan Hamhuis or Radim Vrbata, who they could have got a lot for, right? Or even more recently, the 2 summers ago. But yes, if someone offers you something good, but that's what it depends, John, on what the offer is. It's such an easy cop out, but it truly depends on the offer. But yeah, if you don't think you're going to sign Mott, but Mott's signing these, 1.2 million, his contracts aren't that big. So that's a guy that I still want. He might not fit the mold of, is he going to be around when you're a true contender, but he still brings something that a lot of the Canucks don't have. So yeah, I would listen. I would certainly listen, but he wouldn't be on the top of my trade board for sure.
There was rumors and kind of conversations going around of potentially like a Minnesota Vancouver trade of Boeser. And I don't know if you saw Fiala. So with that, I'll just throw that idea. If it was like Fiala plus like another piece for Boeser, is that something you would be upset about or something that you would consider? Like, what's your mindset on? Because that was something that was being thrown out there for a bit.
Yeah. The rumor was Fiala and maybe a second for Boeser. I don't make that trade. I like Fiala, but he's kind of streaky, just like Boeser's kind of streaky. Maybe that's why they're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I going back to what I was talking about, being kind of stubborn or prideful with your own draft picks. I'm not sure if the Canucks make that move. And if it were me, if I was Jim Benning, I do like Fiala, but I think I've seen enough from Boeser where in a proper system with the proper players and a proper healthy Boeser, I still think he's better than Fiala plus a second. And I'm not sure what Fiala's contract is, but I'm sure it's not much less than what Boeser is making or is going to make.
Yeah, both of them I think are pending RFA status, so both of them are going to need contract. So thank you so much, Clay, for coming on. I really appreciate it. To all of you guys, again, go subscribe to Canuck Clay on YouTube. Subscribe to this channel. Always hit that like button. And Canucks fans, I will always say I hope the best for you guys. It's rough times right now. I know I'm laughing right now, but I'm only laughing because I could relate to all these struggles of being a Leaf fan over the years. So we could share and struggle together.
Misery loves company, and that's why we're such good friends.
There you go. So
Thanks,
thank
John.
you, Clay. Thank you guys. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.